This is a teardown of the WoPad Android tablet. Now I'm not going to do a full review of the device as Ashens has already done a review of it. If you haven't seen this, this is a reply to it, so go check it out. It's interesting and worth watching. Anyway, getting on with this, we'll have a quick look at the device first. We've got the screen in the front, not centered. We'll talk about that later. On this side there's a single speaker connection. On this side there's a second speaker and some buttons. We have the reset, the power and the volumes. If we go to the bottom, we have a pair of USBs, one host, one device. We have a power port, a headphone jack. That's a lie. And we have the micro SD card. We'll explain why that's a lie later. And if we turn it over, we see here this big black plastic section. You may assume that's where the Wi-Fi antenna would be, underneath the plastic bit. No, because that would be sensible. And as we all know, Chinese made electronics or anything but. The other thing to notice about the back is there's nothing on it at all. No screen printing, there's no markings above these or logo. If you have a look at any picture of a shop selling this online, you'll see they do have printing on it, which suggests this is a very early unit, possibly a review unit, which makes sense. As interesting fact, this is the actual unit reviewed by Ashens. About 3 years ago he held a competition and this was the prize. So if for any weird reason he happens to be watching this, thanks, I've kind of used this a bit. I wouldn't have bought my tablet myself, and this has been quite nice to watching videos on, even if it's a bit slow. Anyway, without more of this, let's get on to taking it apart. Okay, so I've got it open now, and it's just a couple of clips around the edge, but it's not particularly interesting to watch, so I have not shown that. If we have a look inside, we instantly see it's held together with sellotape. This is not unusual for Chinese stuff. In fact, most of it is. It's clearly less design work has gone into making the case than really should have. But if we'll ignore that because it's inside, so technically you shouldn't be seeing it. Now, what do we can see? We can see there's two speakers here. Like the device has two speaker connections, so obviously stereo. Except that would be sensible as well. It's not. If we remove this piece of tape, if I lift this up to the camera, taking that too, you can see both speakers are connected to the same pads on the board, marked speaker 1. Speaker 2 is not connected to anything. So the motherboard is capable of stereo sound, clearly because the headphones are stereo. However, for some obscure reason, they've decided not to actually connect the speakers as stereo. I have literally no idea why they've done that, because if you look at it, with an oscilloscope on this pin, the only reason there's no sound coming here is a single resistor has been missed out at the bottom. You bridge the connections, these two work fine, so you could move the connection over and have stereo. I can't even see a reason to make it cheaper by doing that, because you're still putting the extra speaker in, so I don't understand why they've done that. Possibly to sell a more expensive model of stereo? I really don't care. Now, you've got the battery here, again sellotaped down. It's a standard lithium polymer, quite a high capacity, 3.2 amp hours. Soldered directly to the motherboard so they can't be unplugged easily. And that's all we really can see here. We've got these two little shielding plates. I can reveal that this plate has all the actual CPU and stuff underneath it, whereas this is the Wi-Fi. If I can quickly lever this one off, you see the CPU, pair of RAM chips and the ROM. 4GB flash that will be. It's a rock chip, which all Chinese made things seem to be. And around here there's some switch mode stuff for the power supply. And I'd guess the audio is somewhere here. I haven't looked at the chip names. So if we quickly take this board out and have a look what's underneath. Oh, I'll point out this up here is the big plastic bit on the case, and this right at the bottom is the Wi-Fi antenna. Okay, so if we take this board out, it's still connected to the screen, so it can't come out too far. In fact, I don't want to lever this too much. And we see on the bottom of the board, there is nothing. Plenty of places for chips, there's an extra space for more memory. And here, this is the HDMI controller chip. It's not there. This is the HDMI port. It's not there. The manual says it's there. The operating system says it's there, but it's not there. It's got a hole in the case. And as we see here, this is for the screen, this is for the capacitive touch panel. If we turn the board over again, we notice another connector here. This is a screen for the other side, so this board can be used in other devices. And this one here, I believe either this one or this one would be where a resistive touchscreen would connect, although I can't be sure. I haven't actually tried to scan out this circuit board, it would take too long. And another thing we can note is right here there's a microphone, but there's no hole in the case for it, so that can't possibly work. The other thing, of course, to mention is the display. Now, as we see in the case here, you can see, if I can move the battery out of the way, the actual display is in the middle of the case. So why isn't it centered on the outside? Well, I've got another display here for a similar device. As you can see, the display itself is not in the middle. This is because the controller chip is here. Now, what they could have done is made the device wider and had the display in the middle, but what they've chosen to do is make it smaller and just have the display off center. This makes some sort of sense, I suppose, even if it doesn't look as nice. It makes you have a smaller device. So, that's about it for that then.